Okay, welcome to a Fire King Genesis deck profile. This is one of the decks that people have slated to be one of the better decks in the format. However, it hasn't really put up any results in terms of the YCSs that we've had, in terms of some of the opens that we've had, the Farfa Open, the Metagames GX Open, things like that. It hasn't really shone, unfortunately. It is one of my favourite decks and one of the decks that I like to play in a TCG, so I want to translate it over to Genesis. So we're going to give it a go. Feel free to critique it, tell me what you think I could improve on. But I've landed on this, I've done a bit of testing, and it has performed fairly well. What I will say is there are a few cards that I am not sure on, and as we go through the deck profile, I'll comment on those. I think first off, we'll go through what our pointed cards are, as you can see on the screen anyway, and why I actually chose to use those cards for the points. So, as you can see, our first three pointed cards are Kirin. Kirin is such a staple card in this deck. You need to have three of them. You will go through all three of them very quickly over even the course of 2 turns. So I would never recommend going down to 2 Kirin in this deck unless you are incredibly good at your resource management. And even then, I still think it's very, very important. We have 1 Volcanics. A lot of decks I see online play 2, and I can't really fault that. However, I wanted a bit of space for some non-engine, just so that we have that flexibility and that defense, because there are decks in the game that, while they might not be good, if they put up a full board, it can be very problematic for this deck. So we have gone with 3 Drolls, as you can see below, and 1 Ghost Ogre. So we'll go to those as we've mentioned them. So 3 Drolls, because it's such a high impact hand trap against lots of decks. We can side it out should it not be valuable in the matchup. And then we have 1 Ghost Ogre. I did play this before when it was at 5 points as well. This is purely because we can use Ghost Ogre, and if we get to a later turn and we use our Meteor can actually summon back a tuner. So it could summon back our Ghost Ogre, and then that would allow us to have an extra interruption on our opponent's board. So, sorry, against our opponent's board. Therefore, a good bit of utility. You could argue this to be something else. You could argue to not have the Drolls and have an extra Volcanics. You could argue to not have them and have the Rescue Race cards. But obviously, pre-points update, we did have Pop Extravagance, we did have Rescue Race, etc. So we have lost a few things, which is unfortunate. But we are managing here, and hopefully you'll see where I'm trying to go with this deck. So we go back to the start. We've got 1 Dogoran. Yes, I know it's a going second card, but we do benefit from it being a level 8 because we play Trading, and we do benefit from it being a fire. So it's not really dead on our hand ever, because we can just pop it with Fire King Island or Volcanics. So it's something I could experiment with, and maybe it goes back in the side deck. But for now, just to keep our level 8 count up a bit, I have included it. Then we have our 1 Fire King High Avatar Grunix. That is 4 Volcanics essentially. It's a level 8, and you'll see from our extra deck we are playing quite a level 8 toolbox. We have our 3 Sacred Fire King Grunix, best card in the deck. It recurs itself all the time, really important, and when you can get 2 of these in rotation, very, very vital. Especially if you want to play around things like DD Crow. If you can get 1 into hand, you can activate the 1 in hand rather than the 1 in graveyard, which then will get around plays like DD Crow, which are quite popular in the format. We've discussed Kirin. We've got 1 Supreme Sovereign Serpent of Golgonda. This is a card that we dump off of Fire King Avatar Kirin, because this can summon itself back when we have a field spell on the field, such as our Fire King Island. It does banish itself when it leaves the field, but however, we are going to be using it as a rank 8 material. Oh, I lost it there. A rank 8 material, therefore it's just going to go back to the graveyard, and we can use it again the next turn. Then for our level 4s, we have 1 Avata for our Monster Negate, 1 Barong. This is really important actually, because we can pop this, we can search it off of 7th Tachyon as well, should we already have Volcanics in hand. And it plays around Droll because it's going to search for a Fire King in the next standby phase. In which case we will probably search for Kirin, this Kirin here, as our most likely target. We've got 1 Rang Barley for our Spell and Trap Negate, and it can actually special summon itself to the field should we pop a Fire King on the field. So it's got that utility as well, and it's just good against like lots of different decks in the format because it's quite a wide open format. 1 Volcanics we discussed, 1 Kirin, which we pop from the Garunix, which sends anything in the deck, but usually going to be the Golgonda. We did have Magmacho Dragon in here, and that's something I'm thinking about putting back in, because obviously if we draw Golgonda, we don't actually have a really decent target for Kieran. We can dump other things, but we would like to be sending those level 8 so we can get into our level 8 toolbox. We've discussed the Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. Then we have the 3 Dirac Megalo, really good in this deck. Just having complete board wipe through the use of Astero is very important. You just pop the Megalo, send Astero, and then we have a Meteor on board to threaten our opponent's board throughout the entire game. We're on 3 Ponics. I forgot to mention this as we went into the points at the start, but obviously 3 Ponics is our main starter, 30 points, but really worth it. You could potentially drop 1 and then have 10 more points to play with, but I really like the consistency here by having 3. We've discussed Droll. Let's go on to Ground Xeno. Ground Xeno is just another good card going first. You activate Ground Xeno, you grab your Megalo and you pop your Megalo, and it also turns on all your other Fire Kings. If I'm siding, I will probably side this out, especially going second, because it doesn't do anything for us for some things like Alpha or some DD Crows or Dark Ruler No Mores, etc. 7th Tachyon is essentially our 2nd, 3rd and 4th copies of Volcanics, or it can be Barong, or it could be Rank Barley, any of our level 4s essentially. Free trade-in. This is something new that we're trying, because we play a fairly high suite of level 8s. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9 level 8s. I wanted to try trading. It's something I'm going back and forth on, and I'm potentially thinking it could be something like a DD Crow or a Final Bring of the End Times, but we're still experimenting, and it's something I'm looking to test, but I am enjoying it so far. We've then got 2 Fire King Skyburn, which we can search off Ponics. Really good way of dodging certain things in the format. And obviously a way of destroying our opponent's cards. Then we play 3 Sanctuary as another starter, which searches our 2 Fire King Islands. And these are important because we do suffer against Radiant Typhoon, because MST is actually strangely quite good against this deck, because popping the island can be quite a big interruption for us. Sometimes it can help us because we can pop fires in hand and we go off. However, if our opponent times it really well, it's very unfortunate for us. We go on to the extra deck. We're playing 2 Dirac Meteor along with our 2 Dirac Astero. Astero is just the thing you send off Megalo when it's popped, and then Astero allows us to go into our Meteor and pop the entire field. I'm going to go from the other end for the XYZs. This is something I've just put in today. I wanted to try out. So, for example, if we search a Ponics with our Volcanics becomes level 1. And then obviously, if we search with the Volcanics, we can then summon that Ponics, and we have 2 level 1s on board. And this just puts 2 bouncers on the board for us. Should we be stopped in any way? Let's say we go for Volcanics, pop a card, search the Ponics, and we get drolled. At least then we can put an Ensemble Robin on the board and have 2 bouncers on the board for our opponent. It's just a way to sort of play around certain strong hand traps in the format. We've got 1 Cestus, which is our 7th Tachyon target. That's literally it. That's all it's in there for. We have 1 Alcai, the Sylvan High Protector. We're trying to play a suite of rank 8s to have as a bit of a toolbox, removal toolbox here. So Alcai is, it can bounce a card from the bottom or the top of the deck. To the bottom or the top of the deck when a card is excavated or a card is sent from the deck to the grave. So this can actually proc on your opponent's turn when you summon back your Garunix, you pop a card from your deck. This can then actually put a card on the field, on your opponent's side of the field, back to the top of the bottom of the deck, which can be a really good interruption. And weirdly enough, if you need the card back that you put off the top of 7th Tachyon, you can declare that card name and add it to your hand, so that's pretty good. As for some more removal, we have Dingisu, which is a send removal, so we're just trying to get around those sort of immunities that our opponent might have. Dingisu is really important as well. Let's say we have a Meteor play coming up, we can summon Dingisu, and then we can pop our opponent's entire field, and we can use Dingisu to protect our entire field. Therefore, it's more of a one-way board wipe. Next we have Doomsy 12N Drastius. This is a removal in the form of equipping a monster from an opponent's side of the deck, as well as a negate, because if your opponent activates a monster negate on the field, a monster effect on the field, I should say, we can negate that and then equip that monster again. So it's just a really versatile use of removal. We then have one Divine Dragon Knight Felgrand, which is an onboard monster negate. It comes up from time to time, and the fact that the card is unaffected by other card effects means our opponent cannot actually interact with their own card sometimes, and it's a random thing that does come up, and it's quite useful. We have one Coach King Giant Trainer. This is our main turn 1 play. If we go into a play where we aren't getting hand trapped, and we can go into 3 level 8s, which is very easy in this deck, we can go into a Giant Trainer, which is a fire, and then we can draw 3 extra cards. So we can draw into things like a Droll, like a Kirin, etc. Very, very useful in this deck, and something I love to go into. And the burn effect is also very beneficial. We play 2 Garunix, which is the main boss monster of the deck. It's another board nuke. In the form of monsters, and it's a really good OTK piece as well. And then we have, just as a bit of a experimental thing, we have Galaxy Ice Cypher Dragon, just for a bit more OTK and damage, and then as well as a Galaxy Ice Full Armor Photon Dragon, which can pop cards in the field and also has 4,000 attack, so we can get past things like a Liger Dance, for example. And then we're going to go to our side deck. This is going to be a quick one. I actually want to add something in here that I forgot to add, which is Circle of the Fire King. So what I think we'll do, we'll take out, for now, we'll take out a Dark Rule anymore, and we'll add a Circle of the Fire Kings. But bear with me, this isn't set in stone, but we'll see how we go. So we've got 2 Alpha. It's a level 8 extender. It's an interruption for our opponent. We play it into their board. And they will obviously a lot of the time be forced to interact with it, otherwise it's going to bounce cards on their field. And we play the Tri-Beast, so actually if we have a normal summon first, and that doesn't get interrupted, we can then go into Alpha, depending on our opponent's field, and maybe bounce more than 1. We have an additional Dogoran, just for any sort of tower decks, things like Super Quantum, things like that. A couple of DD Crows, just as a sort of all-case scenario. There are lots of decks that use their graveyard, so DD Crow can just be useful for sniping some things out of the graveyard. A couple of Dark Rule No Mores, just for problematic fields that we need to get through. If we Dark Rule No More field, we tend to be able to just nuke the entire board then, and we're pretty safe, and we have a good grind game. And I just added Circle of the Fire Kings. So this is something that goes well in tandem with our Garunix, because we can go into our Garunix, board wipe the field, we can activate Circle, target our Garunix and something else in grave, pop the Garunix, summon out our target from grave, and then Garunix is going to allow us to summon 2 more bodies back. So it just allows for a really easy OTK. We have 2 Cosmic Cyclone. Again, it's quite an open format, so it's just having that spell and trap removal, as well as 2 Final Bringer of the End Time, which could essentially be a spell and trap removal as well, but it's good for dodging things. It pops our own monsters, which we like, so we're popping our own fire monsters and therefore turning on our Fire King effects. And then for some more going first cards, we have Breakthrough Skill. It's basically just a monster negate, and because we can enter grind games quite well, we can actually use this from the graveyard in the next turns to negate something on our opponent's side of the field to help us push through it and push through for game. So thanks for watching Deck Profile. We are going to go into some test hands very soon. We're going to go into some games online. We're going to do some ranked, and then hopefully I can showcase that this deck is fairly strong. Do I believe it's the best deck in the format? No, but it's something that's very fun, and I hope you really enjoy it. So thanks for watching, and we'll have a test hand video coming up very, very soon. Cheers.